Tonight we're diving into a new series titled Following Jesus Through Doubt. If you're new to Anchored, one thing I want to say is what you might notice about us is like we take our series really seriously. Like we don't just happen to pick things. Like the things we talk about at Anchored, they are prayed over, argued over, discussed over, everything. And so the reason we're having a conversation about doubt is like, I don't just think it's interesting or cool or whatever. Like, I have a conviction in my spirit that this matters for you. That when it comes to you doing faith, to your faithing, that doubt and talking about doubt is critical. But talking about doubt is kind of hard. Because like in the Christian world, we talk a lot about moving from faithlessness to faith. Right? We talk a lot about moving from skepticism into belief. We talk a lot about what it looks like to go from interest to belief to surrender or getting in the wheelbarrow, right? If you get that reference. We talk a lot about faithing, like in a positive direction. And we can get it into our heads that if you're following Jesus right, if you're following Jesus correctly, it all just feels like upward mobility. Right? On this day, you'll have this much faith. On this day, you'll have this much faith. And over time, if you're following Jesus right, your faith just does this steady climb until you just magically arrive. What we don't often talk about is what happens when you go from a ton of faith to feeling faithless. What do you do when you love Jesus and you're seeking to follow Jesus, but all of a sudden it feels like your faith takes a step backwards? What do you do when all that precious belief you have, all that precious theology that's been so important and precious to you, what do you do when that starts to show cracks? What do you do when something you've believed for a long time seems a little less believable? What do you do when doubt creeps in? Doubt's not an easy topic. It's not an easy conversation. There's something shameful about admitting that you're doubting in a Christian community. Like, I even think this, I was thinking about this. I think that it might be easier to confess like a big, scary moral sin in Christian community than it is to confess that you are doubting. Because at least when you confess a sin, right, you're like, man, I'm a Christian and I'm struggling with this and I don't want to struggle with this, but I repent and God's going to help me. But when it comes to doubt feels like betrayal, doesn't it? Doubt feels like you are looking at God and you are betraying him, that you have decided that it's not worth it anymore. When we feel doubt, we have like an immediate like panicked reaction. Like it feels like the first sign of cancer in our faith. Like when we feel a doubt pop up, we go, I thought I was a Christian. Like I thought I had faith. Why on earth am I doubting? Maybe this isn't real to me. Maybe I'm not as in this as I thought I was. Maybe I'm not a good Christian. Maybe God doesn't even want me. Doubt has a way of just bringing all of our anxieties to the surface. And the reality is this. For Christians, doubt is inevitable. Whether you have been a Christian for a long time or a short time, you've probably encountered a little bit of doubt. Think in your head right now. What doubts kind of pop into your head? Those things that when they pop into your head, you either ignore them or just try to rationalize them away. You go, no, I didn't really think that. I didn't really wonder if God was really real at all. I didn't wonder if God was actually here with me or not. Like, no, of course I believe those things. I've been a Christian forever. Of course I believe those things. What doubts do you experience? If you can't think of doubts that you've had, well, let me tell you. You have a date with doubt in the future waiting for you. It's a blind date, it's mandatory, and it's not going to foot the bill. You have a date with doubt coming for you. Doubt is a part of doing faith. And doubt is disorienting. It's threatening. It's scary. It seems to undermine your faith in Jesus. And when we feel doubt, we're filled with all this anxiety. A singer named John Foreman, he puts it this way so beautifully. I think this captures doubt. He says, Jesus, I'm sorry about last night. Jesus, we both know I tried. Jesus, feels like the world's in pieces. I'm sure you've got your reasons, but I have my doubts. Jesus, I have my doubts. What I want to acknowledge tonight is this. Doubt is real, it's present, and I'm going to assume that the vast majority of us in this room are presently struggling with doubts. And what I want to say first and foremost is this: God is not threatened by your doubts. God is not disoriented by your doubts. Though your doubts feel threatening and scary and disorienting, God does not feel that way about them. God is big enough to handle your doubt. God is not threatened by your doubt. He's not disappointed by your doubt. He's not even frustrated by your doubt. God is not threatened by your doubt. So I want us to understand tonight is a conversation about doubt. Like, we should be having that conversation all the time within Christian community because God is not threatened by it. God invites honest and real conversations. And so tonight, I want to start talking about doubt by the most obvious, most reasonable place, which is Elon Musk. Bear with me. So, who likes Elon Musk? Oh, that says a lot about your politics. No, I'm kidding. That was a trap. I love Elon Musk. I don't know him personally, obviously, or do I? I think he's like a fascinating dude. Like the guy that at one point was only known for PayPal. Like that's his thing. PayPal is Elon Musk's like first big thing. Eventually, obviously, he goes on to form Tesla, an electric car company. But obviously, the big product of Tesla is not electric cars, but the tequila he created. Guys, can I give you a gift right now? It's not tequila. Can I give you a gift? The name of this tequila. I want you to put this in your joy bank and pull this out whenever you feel sad. This is my gift to you. The name of the tequila is Teslaquila. You're welcome. Seriously. My free gift to you. It's $250 a bottle. And you're all like, this is stupid, but don't act for 1 minute that in the future you don't want this on your shelf. Like, that is so, come on. I want this. If you guys, Pastor Appreciation Month, I think it's like 2 months ago. So you have 10 months to save up the money to get, please don't do that actually. Yeah, I don't encourage it. So Elon Musk, he's in this phase of life where he just does crap, right? Like he formed a company called the Boring Company, great name. They make giant drills and also flamethrowers. So, fun story. I tried to buy one, but the wait list was full. True story. The launch party for this was just a bunch of nerdy scientists lighting things on fire. And I see Elon Musk, and I'm just like, dude gets it. Like, I'm sorry. Like, every other rich person, take notes. Like, use your wealth and make a flamethrower. Come on. He recently bought Twitter, which wasn't controversial. And on his first day, he walks into Twitter with an actual kitchen sink and says, I'm going to sink this company. I'm sorry. The guy is equal parts idiot and genius, and I love it. Like, I'm so Team Musk right now. It's silly. Like, he had 5 shots of his Teslaquila, then grabbed the sink and was like, this is mine. But obviously, his most famous endeavor now is SpaceX, right? If you don't know, he started a space exploration company, which if nothing screams like I need an ego boost more than I'm going to go to outer space. Like, I mean, what's left for this guy, right? He's openly said, I want to die on Mars. And I'm like, I have different goals in life. I kind of just want a really good cheeseburger tomorrow. Like that's the level I'm living at. But I'll just say, I'm a huge space nerd. I love space exploration. And in the middle, I think it was 2020, but SpaceX launched their first rocket with actual people in the crew cockpit. The rocket was named the Falcon 9. The cockpit was named the Crew Dragon. And they put 2 famous astronauts in it, both guys who had piloted the NASA space shuttles before. So these are seasoned, experienced astronauts, not their first time going to space, not even their second or their third. They've done it a bunch. And they get in this Crew Dragon, and the thing looks state of the art. Like, it actually looks like that. And the way Elon Musk designed it, Elon Musk isn't a rocket scientist, by the way. He has a business degree. But he taught himself rocket science, on YouTube. I wouldn't want to get in his rocket. Anyway, but he hired the best rocket scientists he could find. All the best rocket scientists in the world, and he brought them together, gave them a state-of-the-art warehouse and lab, and said, I want you to create the best rocket you can based on the best rocket science available. I want the bleeding edge of thought and ideas and theory packed into this rocket, and they did it. And after the astronauts got to the space station, important fact, they did a little press conference in the space station and talked about what it was like to fly in the first non-NASA rocket that American astronauts had flown in from American soil. And they said this: the ride in the rocket was really smooth. It felt like a Tesla, they said, which is funny. It felt like a Tesla, right? It was smooth, it was clean, it was like space age, until they hit the atmosphere. And then the two astronauts said, and I quote, "We genuinely feared for our lives." And they said, "It was the worst turbulence we have ever experienced, including when we flew on the 1980s space shuttle. Like the thing that has less computing power than your iPhone handled better in the atmosphere than this thing. The state-of-the-art rocket." They said, "It was like," and I quote, "being in the belly of an actual dragon." They were like, it was like someone was beating us in the back with a baseball bat. They were like, it was a terrifying ride once we hit the atmosphere. So what happened? Was the rocket science wrong? Was the theory bad? Were the scientists they used, were they just quacks? Were they full of it? Did they kind of fake their degrees? No, the rocket science was great. The theory was great. But there's something that happens when theory hits reality. There's something that happens when the theory of rocket science collides with the cold, hard, complex realities of the Earth's atmosphere. And Earth's atmosphere isn't the thing that budges. Rocket science budges, right? Theory budges. When theory collides with reality, theory gets shaken. Here's what I want you to understand. The rocket is your faith, the atmosphere is the real world, and the turbulence is doubt. Doubt, what you perceive to be doubt, when doubt happens to you, what is happening is the theory of your faith is colliding with the atmosphere of the world. That's doubt. We have this in our heads that when we experience doubt, it's an intellectual thing, right? Like people doubt because you've let some really smart ideas into your brain, or some really smart, super liberal college professor, gave you just a zinger of an argument and you couldn't defend yourself. You couldn't articulate a defense for your theology. We assume that doubt is an intellectual thing. Doubt is not an intellectual thing. It doesn't happen in your brain. It happens right here in the real world. You don't doubt because you think too much. You doubt because there are parts of your faith that are still just theory that haven't been tested by reality. There's a difference between the idea that God is good and having no other course of action than to believe that God is good in the real world. And when theory hits reality, it's disorienting. That's why doubt feels so disorienting. Just like severe shaking and turbulence, when the theory of your faith hits hard reality, especially seasons of transition or suffering, your faith is going to shake like crazy and it's going to scare you. There are going to be parts of your faith that break. You won't see them again. There are going to be parts of your faith that are forced to transform. They're forced to grow up. There are going to be parts of your faith that are just fine. Doubt is going to hit every single one of us. It's going to look different for every single one of us. But the one thing we have in common is this. Every one of us, especially if you grew up in the church, there are some parts of your faith that are just ideas, and you might not even realize it. And the real world is about to shake those things up quite a bit. It's kind of why doubt always seems to rear its head in hard seasons of life. Let me ask you, as you think about someone's lifetime, when do you think the greatest season of doubt is? Like just off the top of your head. Freshman year of college, right? That's the one I think of. There's a famous statistic that 50% of church kids leave the faith in their freshman year of college. 50%. That's like every youth pastor, like for Halloween, we don't dress up. We just look at that quote for a while. And like we scream by our little group of us. We just scream looking at this quote, being like, I wonder which half of our kids is going to make it. No, I have faith in you guys. You guys are going to kill it. Why does that happen? It doesn't happen because you walk into class and there's some professor who's smarter than you with liberal theology that's going to argue you out of your faith. If you didn't think yourself into your faith, you can't think yourself out. If you just got like intellectually convinced that Christianity is true, good on you. I haven't really met someone like that. People become Christians because they find Jesus good and compelling. Your faith doesn't get shaken in your freshman year of college because you have crazy professors. Your faith gets shaken because your whole world has changed. You're hitting the atmosphere, right? Your friend group is no longer there. Your church family, gone. You probably don't have a church in those first weeks. You have no friends. You're lonely. College is great. Like you're starting a new degree, and you're like, I hope I chose the right one. Otherwise, I'm going to be homeless. But like, it's okay. You're not going to be chill. Do we need to do it? Okay, we'll do an anxiety series next. You're like, Jake just named my deepest fear. Doubt happens in your freshman year of college, not because you're met with new ideas, but because your life looks completely different and you're not prepared for it. That gives you doubt. Here's a more real example. I grew up in the church. I had the privilege of being raised by Christian parents in this youth group, actually. So I have a fondness for this youth group. You guys are going to be just like me, sorry. But I grew up in this youth group. I was given all these ideas, all these really good ideas. And one of the central things I always believed was that God is real and he is with me, right? Central beliefs of the Christian faith. I believe that as long as I can remember. But about 3 years ago, I was standing in the delivery room as my first child was born. I was shoved to the side by a doctor as he sprinted in to try to save my wife who was dying in childbirth. True story. She's fine now, but as the doctors told us, there was about a 60-40 chance she was going to make it, 40 in her favor. It was a horrifying moment of me standing in the corner, felt my face get hot, felt the world get loud, doctor's hand in my chest holding me somewhere while I watched my wife's blood pressure drop on a monitor. I'm still not okay from that one, and let me tell you, as I thought about it afterwards, I realized I am filled with doubt. Weirdly enough, my wife didn't doubt too much after that situation. She kind of like leaned into gratitude. But she would come to me and she'd be like, aren't you so grateful that God was with us and he protected us? And you know what my answer in that moment was? Screw God. Like, what? Like, I believed he was with me. I believed he was for me. And yeah, you're fine. Why did that even have to happen? That's doubt. That's doubt with all of its hard edges attached, isn't it? Uncomfortable, messy, angry at God doubt. Didn't happen because I got ideas in my brain that my faith couldn't handle. It happened because I had an idea that God was good, but that idea wasn't big enough to handle the suffering I encountered in that moment and the absolute terror I felt. Doubt has a way of shaking what you believe, taking your ideas and saying, are you sure? Are you sure that that is not just an idea, but is reality? That's why doubt is scary. It's what happens when you collide with reality. But what do we do with it? Right? Do we panic? Do we ignore it? Do we run away? Do we write off our faith? Obviously, I didn't do that. What do we do? First, we need to realize this. Doubt is not a faithless place. We have it in our minds that doubt is the opposite of faith, right? That either you have doubt or you have faith. That's a false division. Right now, I'm going to guarantee every one of us in this room, the cocktail of faith that you have is some percent doubt, right? There are some ideas in your faith that you're not quite sure about and you're not admitting it. Doubt is not a faithless place. In fact, look at Scripture, look at the disciples. Every one of them doubted. Every one of the disciples doubted. Usually in moments where they were also faithing at the same time. What I want us to understand is this. Doubt is not a faithless place. Doubt is a faithing place. Doubt is not a place where your faith stops. It's a place where it comes alive. The doubt is not the absence of faith. It can be the presence of faithing. I'm not saying that I think doubt is a good thing. I don't think it is. But what I am saying is this. In faithing, in surrendering to Jesus, in getting in the wheelbarrow, you are going to have to walk through some doubt as your faith collides with the real world. And that's such good news, because here's why. Your faith has to matter in the real world. Your faith has to matter in the real world. We're not here as an opinion group, all just trying to think the right things. And the beautiful thing about Jesus is he allows us to encounter seasons of doubt. Jesus allows you to encounter doubt because Jesus wants to walk with you in the real world. Jesus isn't threatened by your doubt. He actually uses your doubt. Jesus kind of needs you to doubt sometimes, to step into your life in the places where you don't think you need him. In doubt, Jesus steps into our lives in ways we didn't know we needed him, and he says, hey, there's a difference between your idea of God and the reality of God. There is a difference between your opinions and reality. And doubt brings that difference to light. And Jesus looks you in the eye and says, will you follow me in the midst of it all? What survives doubt? It's a good question. What thing is guaranteed to survive doubt? Because let me tell you, when you encounter doubt, none of you will believe the exact same thing in 10 years that you believe today. There will be parts of your faith that change. It's the nature of reality. Parts of your theology will change. Parts of your belief system will change. Maybe small pieces, maybe big pieces. But reality has a way of shaking up your faith so that it's forced to grow and change so it's durable in the real world. So if your beliefs are changing, if your theology is changing, what survives doubt? Relationship does. Friends, that's the secret to doubt. That's why God allows you to go through doubt. That's why God doesn't really protect you from doubt. That's why he lets you run into it. That's why he lets you feel the turbulence. Because he wants you to lean into relationship. Let me tell you, in that great season of doubt I had after Brinley's birth, and it was messy, let me tell you, there was a minute where I was like, can I even be a pastor anymore? Like, I am wrestling. Like, I believed God was real, but I'm like, where are you? What I realized was this. In that season of doubt, my theology didn't change. My belief system didn't change. It's not like there was some old defunct part of my theology. I took it out and I inserted a brand new idea, and that new idea was just awesome and good, and I was great. No. What survived that doubt was relationship. As I looked at Jesus and I was like, Jesus, I don't know what I believe about a few things right now, but I know you are good and I am with you, you are with me. That's what doubt forces you to do. It forces your hand. It forces you to get beyond theory. To say, get beyond your theory. Get beyond that neat and tidy little system of theology you built in Sunday school and get into the real world where it is you and Jesus and you need to trust him. What survives doubt? Relationship does. Trust does. When you encounter doubt, the way through doubt is not to fix your brain. It's not to stop thinking about doubt. It's not to get perfect theology. The way through doubt is to see Jesus clearly. It's to say, my doubt is not a faithless place. My faith is shaking, but it's not gone. They're not mutually exclusive. I choose to faith in this moment. I choose to get in the wheelbarrow, to surrender myself to Jesus. And in spite of some of my theology, I don't know what it's doing right now. I don't know what my theory is doing right now. I don't know what rocket science says about this. I'm going to weather this turbulence with Jesus because I know what will survive is relationship with him. That's what doubt does to you. Doubt and faith exist at the same time. On with this. In Mark 9, there's a powerful instance when Jesus interacts with someone who's doubting. He interacts with a man who, his daughter is at home and his daughter is dying, and this man runs to Jesus and says, Jesus, help me heal my daughter. I know you can. And Jesus looks at him and he says, well, if you believe, if you have faith, she'll be healed. And the answer this guy gives, I think, is one of the most relatable things in the entire Bible. He says this, Lord, I believe, help my unbelief. That hits, doesn't it? Like when you read that, you're like, yeah, that's how I feel about Jesus. Like, yes, I believe you are good, I believe you are real, I believe you are powerful, but my goodness, I am having a hard time bringing that into reality right now, and my faith is shaking. I am afraid, I am disoriented, I am overthinking everything. Like, Lord, I believe, but help my unbelief. Like, Lord, I believe, but help my doubt. You see that doubt and faith are present in this guy at the same time? It's not one or the other. Faithing includes doubt. I would even say this, to have doubt, what must you first have? Faith, right? You can't doubt if you never had faith in the first place. Doubting is for believers. You understand that? Doubting is not for atheists. Doubting is for believers because we have something we believe in and it's shaking. Friends, if you're here tonight and you are just wrestling with doubt, and maybe you're not, and that's okay. But if you're here tonight and you're wrestling with doubt, and you're like, man, like, Lord, I believe, but I've got some unbelief. Like, I believe that God is real, but I don't know if he even cares about me. Like, I believe that God is real, but I don't really know if he's good to me in my life. What I would say is this. First of all, nothing's on fire. Don't panic. Doubt is a natural byproduct of faithing. It means that your faith is hitting the real world. Your rocket is hitting the atmosphere, and there's some turbulence. And what the Lord will do is he'll step into that doubt with you and say, what you need to lean on is not theology, but me. What you need to lean on is trust that I am good and I am with you. You can always work on your theology. You can always work on your belief system. But Jesus, he's the whole thing. If you're in doubt, seek Jesus. Don't panic. Don't freak out. Don't try to find the silver bullet way of thinking that fixes your doubt. Just look for Jesus in the midst of it. Pray your doubts to Jesus. 2/3 of the Psalms are a category that we call lament, which is people just openly talking to God and saying, I don't get it. I don't understand what you're doing. I don't know what you're up to. Like, I am doubting. 2/3 of the Psalms. 1/3 is praise. 2/3 is doubt, lament. Jesus can handle your doubt. He's not threatened by it. Communicate it to him. I'll end with this. Another quote from John Foreman. When everything that's right feels wrong and all of my belief feels gone, and the darkness in my heart is so strong, can you reach me here in the silence? Friends, understand this. The Spirit could enter a closed tomb and raise Jesus from the dead. God can get you in your doubt. God can find you in your doubt, in that belief silence you feel, in that panic you feel where you're just desperately trying to fix your faith. God finds you in that moment. It's not threatened by your doubt. It's not opposed to having faith. The point is not that doubt is good or doubt is bad. The point is that Jesus is good and he is there in your doubt.